Today we are looking at another very interesting Chinese motorhome, and this one is a good example of where the Chinese RV industry is going right now. A hybrid motorhome with a slide-out 35 kilowatt hours of battery on board and a price tag under $100,000 made in China. I had to come see this one myself. Welcome to Inside Luxury Campers. We're at a camper exhibition in Beijing, and this right here is the Kaiyue Shanhai C2 Pro, a PHEV super hybrid Class C motorhome that honestly caught me off guard. Over the next few minutes, I'll walk you through everything: the exterior, the living space, the hybrid tech underneath, and what it actually costs. Let's get into it. The brand behind this is Kaiyue, a Beijing-based company that's been quietly building a reputation in the Chinese RV market. They have 4 product lines, and the Shanghai series is their adventure range. Think rugged capability, but with a focus on comfort and self-sufficiency. Like most motorhomes in this class here in China, it sits on the SAIC Maxus V90 chassis. That platform is everywhere, as it's the go-to base for RV builders in this country. But what Kaiyue has done differently is build the entire vehicle concept around the hybrid drivetrain, not just bolt a camper box onto a van and call it a day. The body itself is clean. White with subtle graphics, no over-the-top decals, just under 6 meters long, about 2.4 wide, and 3.2 tall. For those of you thinking in feet, roughly 20 by 8 by 10.5. It's a Class C profile, so you've got the Overcab section up front, and it's compact enough that parking isn't a nightmare. Walking around the sides, there's a 3-meter retractable awning that rolls out with one button. Below the entry door, electric folding steps with anti-slip aluminum treads. Along the lower body, you'll find exterior storage compartments, enough room for camp chairs, leveling blocks, hookup cables. All right, through the door and into the living space. First impression, it's light, it's clean, and with the slide-out deployed, it actually feels roomy. The side extension adds nearly 40% to the floor area, and it deploys hydraulically in about 30 seconds. That's the difference between feeling like you're inside a van and feeling like you're in a small apartment. The finish throughout is a warm, light wood. Cabinet doors are PP laminated, moisture-resistant, easy to clean, and they don't look cheap. The overall vibe is modern and understated. No fake leather, no flashy chrome trim, just functional, well-executed design. Up in the Overcab, the main sleeping area. It's roughly 2 meters by 1.3, so 2 adults fit comfortably. There's a skylight overhead and push-out windows on both sides for ventilation, which makes a real difference on warm nights. Reading lights, USB ports, and power outlets are within reach from the bed. Some configurations include a projection screen mounted underneath the Overcab, giving you a 40-inch movie setup right from the bed. Not bad for a vehicle. Down below, the lounge area uses a booth-style dinette with a pneumatic lift table. 4 people can sit here for meals, cards, or just conversation. When you need an extra sleeping surface, the table drops down and the cushions rearrange into a bed, roughly 1.9 by 0.9. It's not the most generous bed in the world, but it works for a guest or a kid. With the slide-out extended, this whole area breathes. You can actually stand and move around without bumping into walls. It's the kind of difference that matters on day 3 or 4 of a trip when the novelty of camping is worn off and you just want to feel comfortable. The kitchen is L-shaped, a dual-door fridge rated at about 140 liters, an induction cooktop, and a microwave in the overhead cabinetry. Counter space is tight like it is in every camper this size, but the layout makes the most of it. There are pull-out spice racks, hidden waste bins, layered storage drawers, small organizational details that make a real difference when you're actually cooking in here every day. Above the counter, there's a push-out window and a roof-mounted exhaust fan. Together, they create cross-ventilation, which helps when you're frying something inside. But as I mentioned, for anything that produces heavy smoke or grease, you've got the external diesel burner outside. That separation between indoor and outdoor cooking is something more motorhome builders should be doing. The bathroom is vacuum molded, one-piece construction, fully waterproof, fixed toilet with an electric flush, pressurized shower head with 3 settings, and the water pressure is actually decent. That's not always a given in motorhomes. Ventilation comes from a two-way exhaust fan and a push-out window. The floor drain is anti-odor, and you've got a mirror cabinet for toiletries, a towel rack, and a waterproof power outlet. It's tight. There's no way around that in a camper this size, but everything you need is there, and the build quality holds up. Fresh water tank is 200 liters, gray water is 70. For a couple, that's about 3 days of normal use, showers, cooking, dishes, before you need to top up. If you're conservative with water, you can push it further. Heating comes from a 5 kilowatt diesel forced air system, rated down to -20 Celsius. The vents are distributed throughout the living space so warmth reaches everywhere, not just the spot right next to the heater. And the diesel heater runs on its own fuel supply, independent of the main battery. So running heat all night doesn't drain the electrical system you need for everything else. For summer, the roof-mounted AC runs off the main battery, and with 35 kilowatt hours on board, you can run it comfortably through the night without worrying. This is the part that really ties everything together, and it's where the hybrid design pays off the most. That 35 kilowatt-hour lithium battery doesn't just move the vehicle, it runs the entire living space. AC, fridge, cooktop, lights, devices, all of it comes from the same battery pack. While driving, the system regenerates around 60 kilowatts per hour, roughly 1 kilowatt hour per minute. Even parked with the engine idling, it produces 15 kilowatts per hour, 5 kilowatt hours in 20 minutes. On the roof, 600 watts of solar adds about 2.5 kilowatt hours on a sunny day. And if you're near a charging station, the 60 kilowatt DC fast charger brings the battery from flat to 80% in about 90 minutes. The inverter handles 5 to 6 kilowatts, so you can run the AC, fridge, and cooktops simultaneously. No circuit juggling, no worrying about tripping breakers. If you've ever camped in a traditional motorhome where you're constantly doing mental math on your tiny auxiliary battery, this is a different world. You're essentially driving a mobile power station. The triple energy supply, driving regeneration, solar, and fast charging means real off-grid capability. Not just a weekend, but genuinely extended stays without hookups. So who actually goes and buys one of these? The first audience is couples or small families who want to do longer trips without depending on campgrounds and hookups. The energy system is built for self-sufficiency. Park somewhere remote, a lake, a mountain, a beach. Run your AC, cook dinner, charge everything, and stay for days. That changes what kind of trips you can plan. Then there's the weekend escape crowd. Drive out Friday afternoon, park somewhere scenic, live comfortably for 2 or 3 days, drive back Sunday night. The 50-kilometer EV range means you can arrive and leave quietly. The green plates mean no restricted zones, and there's a growing segment of younger buyers in China choosing motorhome life not as a retirement hobby, but as a lifestyle. Remote work has taken off here, and a vehicle with reliable power, space for a laptop, and enough comfort to live in for weeks, that's a real option now. This camper is sized and priced for that kind of buyer. It's not a bus. It doesn't scream retirement. It's closer to an oversized SUV you happen to sleep in. If you're watching from outside China, here's some context, because this market is moving much faster than most people realize. 10 years ago, the Chinese RV industry barely existed. Campgrounds were rare, regulations were restrictive, and the vehicles were mostly imported or poorly adapted copies of Western designs. That's completely different now. The market is heading toward $12 billion, driven almost entirely by domestic manufacturers building for local buyers and local conditions. What's interesting is that Chinese builders are not following the Western playbook. In Europe and North America, motorhome electrification has been slow. Most Western campers still run on diesel with small auxiliary batteries and maybe a solar panel. The hybrid approach you see here, where the drivetrain powers both the wheels and the living space, is ahead of where the Western market currently sits. Part of that is government incentive. Green plates, tax breaks, fewer driving restrictions for new energy vehicles, but part of it is just willingness to try things. Chinese manufacturers are integrating systems that Western builders haven't attempted yet. Does that mean Chinese campers are ready to match European build quality or American durability across the board? Not yet. There are still gaps in fit and finish, in long-term reliability data, and in after-sales support outside China. But the technology? That gap is closing fast, so what does it cost? The listed price is about 630,000 yuan. At this show, there was a 100,000 yuan discount on the floor model, bringing it down to around 530, roughly 73,000 US dollars. The dual slide-out version, the S1 Pro, goes for around 650. So this single slide-out model sits just below that. It's premium for the Chinese market. But when you factor in fuel savings of over 10,000 yuan a year compared to a standard diesel motorhome, plus the tax exemption on new energy vehicles, the total cost of ownership makes more sense than the sticker price alone. It's not perfect. The single slide-out still leaves you with a compact footprint when parked. And if you're outside China, availability is essentially zero. Kaiyue has no export network. But what this vehicle represents matters. Chinese manufacturers are pushing hybrid technology into the RV space faster and more aggressively than anyone else. The results are real: off-grid capability, solid driving dynamics, a livable interior, and a price that undercuts comparable Western offerings. That's the C2 Pro. If you have questions or thoughts on Chinese hybrid campers, drop them in the comments. I read everything. And if this was useful, subscribe. And I'll see you on the next one.